Gothamites, I'm London, aka History of the Batman. Since Valentine's Day is next week, right now everything is all about the flowers and the candy, and for me, the Caped Crusader. Because anytime it is Valentine's Day, I love to discuss how absolutely tragic the Batman mythos deals with love and romance. Because let's face it, the Batman figure himself is a tragic figure, from his origin story to all the different personal and romantic relationships that Bruce tries to have that just all fall apart because nothing is more important than the cape and the cowl. Do not forget that. If you are looking for some of the greatest romances that Batman has ever had, I am actually discussing the top 10 of those romances on Instagram and Facebook and soon Twitter. I neglect Twitter. I shouldn't, but that's what's being discussed right now. But for this video, we are going to highlight some of the most tragic love stories, not just with the Batman character, but with other Batman mythos figures in this dynamic history. Although these tales might not have the most conventional happy ending for any of these Batman universe characters, all of these stories I would recommend to read not just for the Valentine's Day holiday, but all year round if you want to learn more about the wonderful history of the Caped Crusader. Or if you're not really into Valentine's Day and the whole love thing, you just want to see some sadness, then these stories are for you. But before we jump into some rather sad love stories, why don't you subscribe to this channel and become part of this wonderful Gothamite community. Our first tragic love story is Paul Levitt's From Each Ending a Beginning. The Cat, aka Catwoman, first debuted in the pages of Batman issue number 1 on April 25th, 1940. And ever since, the Bat and the Cat's romance has blossomed for better or for worse over the many decades that these two characters have played a very cat and mouse game. Well, in 1977, Paul Levitt and artist Joe Staton created a story that looked into the Batman and the Catwoman of Earth 2, which is all of the Golden Age characters, mythology, all reside in this Earth 2, and our main continuity is known as Earth 1, or Prime Earth. And they observed how Batman and Catwoman's romantic relationship evolved in this Earth. And what would happen if the Bat and the Cat actually got together, got married, and started having a family? In 1955, Bruce Wayne's Batman and Selina Kyle's Catwoman get married, and years later have a daughter named Helena Wayne. In 1976, a tragic accident had Selina return to the Catwoman guise to clear up her name for a murder, resulting in Selina's death. This made a guilt-filled and aging Bruce retire from the mantle of the Dark Knight. Their now 19-year-old daughter Helena now wants to keep her mother's memory alive by dressing up and fighting as the Huntress. Now, while we will talk about other Batman and Catwoman stories in this video, and even if the romance at this very moment in comics is actually pretty steady, seeing what Batman's love life would be, even if it is on another Earth, is eye-opening and not too surprising that it ends with such a tragic event in losing the love of his life. But that is a story I recommend, not just because of the writing and the wonderful illustrations, but because you get to see Helena Wayne's Huntress for the first time, a character that has been explored and celebrated in even recent comics such as Supergirl and Huntress in World's Finest. Our next story is Mike W. Barr's Batman, Son of the Demon. This story does not involve Bruce and Selina Kyle, but it involves Bruce Wayne and Talia al Ghul, who is the daughter of eco-terrorist and Batman arch-nemesis Ra's al Ghul. And if you have watched my 5-minute Bat history on Talia, you will know that I think she is just an awful person. I think she is not a good-hearted character at all, even when she is trying to be relatable and good-hearted to even characters like her own son, but it's fine. And this story literally proves one of the many reasons why I don't think Talia is a good person. Well, in October 1987, Mike W. Barr and artist Jerry Bingham created Batman Son of the Demon, a one-shot graphic novel that does focus on the Batman, Talia, and her father, Ra's al Ghul. As both the Batman and Ra's are hunting down an assassin named Cain, we see the morally difficult yet irresistible romance between Bruce Wayne and Talia, making Bruce seek her hand in marriage. When Talia informs him that he and Bruce are already married, thanks to a traditional ceremony from her homeland, they officially consummate the marriage and Talia becomes pregnant. This affects Bruce as the Caped Crusader greatly, especially in his protection of his newly pregnant wife and disregard for others and his own life. Talia, seeing this behavior, realizes that this will ruin Batman and tells Bruce that she actually lost their baby through a miscarriage. Devastated at the loss of another family member, Bruce and Talia decide to get the marriage annulled, and Batman returns to his old life as Gotham's Dark Knight protector. The story ends with the reader learning Talia never had a miscarriage and gave birth to a baby boy, Bruce's son. Isn't that just like one of the worst things you've ever heard? I mean, in terms of Batman's personal life and potentially having his own family after losing a big part of his family at a young age. It's just, Batman is literally devastated that Talia had a miscarriage and decided, okay, if she had a miscarriage and we decide that we can't get married because my cape and cow life is way more intense than maybe she thought, even though she knew what I was about since like day one, but whatever. The fact that Talia just kept this huge thing from Bruce and ended their relationship at the time, it just, she's just such a bad person. But of course, in later continuity, this baby is brought back in the form of Damian Wayne, and that is in the pages of 2006's Batman and Son, if you're interested in reading that arc, because Damian is just a little asshole, you know, in the beginning. Like, he's just an awful little kid, you know, raised by Talia and Ross and the League of Assassins, and he's just not great. But Son of the Demon, with all of its baggage and awful things that happen, is an essential read. It isn't just a great love story in the beginning, even though it ends rather tragically, but the art is just amazing. And it is a graphic novel that I recommend to any Batman fan, especially if you want to look deeper into the relationship between the Batman and Talia, which is one of the most long-lasting and actually dynamic within the Caped Crusaders' romantic history. Our next tragic love story is Paul Dini and Bruce Timm's Mad Love. Paul Dini and Bruce Timm's character Harley Quinn debuted in the Batman the Animated Series episode Joker's Favor on September 11th, 1992, and she was created to be the Joker's sidekick and soon to be girlfriend. Now, no matter where you've seen Harley Quinn and the Joker's relationship, whether it's on TV and animation or it's on the big screen in films such as Suicide Squad, you know that Harley Quinn and Joker's relationship is one of the most abusive and toxic in not just Batman's mythology, but in all of DC Comics. But Harley's love for this madman was first explored in her origin story in February 1994's one-shot graphic novel, The Batman Adventures Mad Love. Harley Quinn fans now learn about the stunningly brilliant psychiatrist, Dr. Harleen Quinzel, whose first patient is no one other than the Joker. After telling her stories about his abusive childhood and his alcoholic father, Quinzel develops a sympathetic side for this maniac, believing that his ways are not his fault, but society's, especially the Batman's. To prove that she is on the Joker's side, she dons a jester costume and breaks Joker out of Arkham Asylum, renaming herself Harley Quinn. Comic then fast forwards years later, showing Joker trying to find the perfect way to kill Batman. When Harley tries to help, Joker kicks her out of his hideout. Wanting to prove her love, she decides to kill Batman herself. After capturing him and moments from feeding him to a school of vicious piranhas, the Caped Crusader laughs at Harley's efforts, saying Joker has played her for a fool, telling her lies of his apparent childhood. Batman even insists on calling Joker to show him the good she has done. Alas, when he arrives, Joker is enraged that Harley would kill Batman herself. Throwing her out of the window, Batman and Joker have a duel on top of a moving subway, with Joker defeated and Harley Quinn back to Arkham, not as a doctor, but as a patient. Although swearing she wants nothing more with the Joker, the comic ends with her discovering a get well soon card and flowers from the Joker, and she falls madly in love all over again. The winner of the Eisner story for Best Single Story in 1994 and the finale episode of the new Batman Adventures in 1999, Beanie and Tim's Mad Love expands upon the Harley Quinn character, exploring her psychotic love and domestic relationship with the Joker, illustrating in a tragic and twisted way why she may be the only person to really understand the Clown Prince of Crime. But I just want to put that out there right now. There is no type of abuse in any type of relationship that you should stand, that you should be like, oh, I'm gonna stay here. It is true love. It's fine. Don't do it. Don't fall for it. If anyone is abusing you, they don't love you. Just want to put that out there. Ooh, the next story is Bruce Timm's Two of a Kind, one of my all-time favorites. In June 1996, the first issue of the critically acclaimed book Batman Black and White was published, which was an anthology that featured different creators, from writers to artists, that pictured the Dark Knight in lovely black and white and gray scale, with original stories not seen before about this Dark Knight. All of them are incredibly stellar. Black and White is one of my favorite books to read, but the very first issue had Bruce Timm's single story, Two of a Kind, and honestly, it is one of the greatest Two-Face stories ever, and a rather tragic love story. Two of a Kind focuses on Harvey Dent's return to normality after the beautifully brilliant plastic surgeon Dr. Marilyn Crane does the complete destruction of the criminal mastermind Two-Face. After his release from Arkham Asylum, Harvey and Marilyn fall in love and plan on getting married, until Marilyn's twin sister Madeline comes into the picture. Marilyn withheld from Harvey the existence of Madeline, afraid he would revert back to his obsession with duality. Unfortunately, with one late night visit from Madeline in lingerie, Harvey has an affair. By day, he plans his wedding with Marilyn, yet thinks about Madeline in bed later that night. Knowing what was the right thing to do, Harvey breaks it off with Madeline, but she refuses, and Harvey comes home to the horror of Marilyn dead by Madeline's hand. Now it is just the two of them. Harvey Dent's sanity got in the way of his vengeance, so he purposely scarred his face to turn back into the killer Two-Face. Meeting Madeline by the docks, she sees him for who he really is and loves him. But looking too much like his fiancée, he kills Madeline, awaiting for the Batman to take him back to Arkham, where he belongs with the rest of the crazy people. While this isn't the very first Two-Face story over his last 80 years in DC Comics that have explored how difficult and very traumatic the dual identity of Harvey Dent actually is, Bruce Timm's Two of a Kind is not only a fantastic look at just the struggle that Harvey Dent has with stepping away from the evil persona of Two-Face, which is something that Batman himself struggles with all the time, not just his own duality, but also with his friend Harvey Dent's duality into this master criminal in Gotham. That is a whole mess in itself. But it is also a great love story that, of course, ends in tragedy and kind of proves that Harvey is in such a bad place mentally, not even when it's physically anymore, that he can't find the love that he probably deserved. If you haven't read Two of a Kind, please read it. Literally, it is a fantastic Two-Face story. Now, while Bruce Timm's Two of a Kind is a nice love story that ends in tragedy and you just wish that Harvey could be happy with Marilyn and want him to have a normal existence without thinking about Two-Face, this next story is all bad, all because of Two-Face. But it is a love story nonetheless. And that is Greg Rucka's Half a Life, which was within the early 2000s limited series Gotham Central, which focused on the members of the Gotham City Police Department. Half a Life centers around GCPD detective Renee Montoya, who was initially created for Batman the Animated Series and debuted in 1992's Batman issue 475. And after the events of Batman No Man's Land in 1999, Two-Face becomes secretly, at the time, obsessed with Renee Montoya because she was a very helpful ally during this closure of Gotham City. But in Half a Life, which was published in 2003's Gotham Central issues 6 through 10 and illustrated by Michael Lark, Renee Montoya's world is turned upside down when not only is she seemingly being followed by Marty Lipari, but because of his actions at the GCPD, Montoya is outed as a lesbian when a photo of her kissing a woman named Daria is posted. After she deals with the backlash of her secret exposed, such as officers saying homophobic slurs, after Renee violently confronts Marty when she meets up with Daria, later that night Lipari ends up murdered. Montoya becomes wrongfully framed for his death and is arrested and convicted for the murder. As Montoya is being sent to prison, the bus is intercepted by Two-Face and his men kidnap her. It is revealed that due to Harvey Dent's obsession with Montoya from her helping him in the past as a DA, with a flip of a coin, Dent wanted to find something in Montoya's life to ruin hers, so all she has in the world is him. So Two-Face hired Lipari and his private investigator to follow Montoya and ultimately take the picture of her kissing Daria and murdered both of them, framing Montoya. After Montoya tells Two-Face she doesn't love him, Crispus Allen is making the connection between Montoya being framed and Two-Face, with the Batman keenly watching in the distance. Just as Two-Face's anger boils over and him and Renee have a fight to the death, the Dark Knight jumps in and apprehends Two-Face. All of the charges are cleared against Montoya, but the issue ends in heartbreak when Renee comes out to her religious parents, who evidently disavow her. Winner of the 2004 Eisner Award for the Best Serialized Story, Half a Life is probably the most well-known story within this critically acclaimed series. Wow, this is a very tragic love story, not just for Two-Face, but who cares about Two-Face's feelings in this story, but also for Renee Montoya having her own personal relationships messed up because Two-Face has this very toxic, unrequited love. It is one I definitely recommend you checking out, especially to celebrate Two-Face's 80th anniversary, which is happening this year from his debut in 1942's Detective Comics issue 66. So any Two-Face is good Two-Face. Our next story is Mark Andreyko's Hero's Journey. Ever since their first unplanned kiss as Batgirl and Robin in 1975's The Batman Family issue #1, Dick Grayson and Barbara Gordon have had that love spark that has been undeniable for decades. Now, well over the decades, Babs and Dick have had their own different relationships, from Dick being with Starfire to Barbara being with Jason Bard. After Chuck Dixon's On Wings in Birds of Prey issue 8 from the mid-1990s, Barbara Gordon and Dick Grayson's relationship has blossomed more into a romantic one, with Dick even proposing to Barbara during the events of Infinite Crisis in 2005. During this Infinite Crisis era, Dick and Babs' relationship was definitely not smooth sailing, with some major revelations occurring in Mark Andreyko and Joe Bennett's story Hero's Journey, which was originally published in 2007's Nightwing Annual #2. After Infinite Crisis, Nightwing almost dies, but Barbara nurses him back to health. Once he recovers, both begin to reminisce about their past. One heartbreaking story is that 6 months after Barbara was shot and paralyzed by the Joker, which happened in Alan Moore's Batman the Killing Joke in 1988. Grayson finally visits her, they become emotional, and they have sex. The very next morning, Grayson breaks the news to Babs that him and Starfire are getting married as he hands her a wedding invitation, devastating Barbara. Devastating. Now, there are many stories that I can give you that have Dick Grayson and Barbara Gordon have a lovely romantic relationship, but if you are looking for probably the most tragic memory within their romantic history, Nightwing Annual 2 is the book for you. The last two stories do revolve around Bruce Wayne and him trying to find love, and it just most of the time not working out. One story is Kevin Smith and Walt Flanagan's 2010 series Batman the Widening Gyre, which is remembered for bringing back the love interest Silver St. Cloud, who first appeared in Steve Englehart's stories Batman Strange Apparition in the late 1970s. Silver St. Cloud is considered, not just by me, but by most people to be one of Batman's greatest loves in his entire 83-year history. When she was brought back in the Widening Gyre and Bruce and her are rekindling their love and their passion, and Bruce even decides to propose to Silver St. Cloud. Even though he had a little run-in with Catwoman and they had a little kiss, a little fling while he's dating Silver St. Cloud, after that happened, he was like, I gotta choose. I'm choosing Silver. I don't care about the cat, even though I usually do. And he decided to tell her any and everything about him. She is invited into his vigilante world. Alfred loves her like it is all gravy. But then the enemy that Batman has been fighting against, sometimes fighting with, kind of iffy, named Automatopoeia, decides to ruin Bruce Wayne's happiness, because can Bruce ever really be happy? The answer always is no. And Automatopoeia just comes out of nowhere and slits Silver St. Cloud's throat, killing her. And what's even sadder about that ending for Bruce is that that's the last thing we see in that entire book, because people were so upset that that story just was not finished and it just ended on such a tragic note. But yes, definitely get the Widening Gyre if you want a sad love story. And then I suppose because Bruce and Selina in the comics right now, they are the Bat and the Cat. They are dynamic. They are together. They are the ones, right? They're finally making it work with the little things happening here and there, like Andrea Beaumont coming back to the picture as a phantasm. But in 2018, Batman and Catwoman were supposed to get married in Tom King's The Wedding of Catwoman, which was published in Batman issue 50. I mean, it was a whole spectacle like weddings usually are, right? There were dozens of creators that came on the book that did pinups. We are celebrating the love of the Bat and the Cat, them finally getting together ever since their first meeting in 1940. We know that they are just meant to be, but of course, thanks to the villain Bane, and even the villain of this larger story, if you look into City of Bane, Thomas Wayne, we wanted to break the Batman once again, not just physically, but emotionally. And we made it so those two lovebirds did not get married, and they were apart for a period of time. I knew that was gonna happen. There was no way that Bruce could be happy. That is the moral of the story. That is the moral of the story for many people within the Batman universe. That love is just not in the cards. If you are a vigilante, if you're a villain, you being happy in love just isn't meant to be within this part of the DC universe. Luckily, there are many stories that do show Bruce trying to find happiness and love with the people in his life, and other characters that have found a more positive love story than the ones that we explored in this video. If we're just rounding this out, Batman having many tragic love stories in his history over the last 8 decades shouldn't be surprising, and it really is quite fitting when you are exploring this rather tragic figure within the DC universe. Thank you guys so much for watching this Valentine's Day video about the best, most tragic Batman love stories. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a bat, a bat, thumbs up. As always, all of my social media is linked in the description below, including Instagram at History of the Batman. So why don't you give it a follow and become a Gothamite? Check out the rest of my Batman videos on this channel. And of course, please subscribe to this channel so you can become part of this Batman community. It would truly mean so much to me. I hope you guys have a lovely Valentine's Day with the bat or the cat in your life. And we will have much more History of the Batman very soon, right here on YouTube. Remember, Gothamites, all about peace, love, and Batman. Bye.